Hello Bobcats. Today we're going to learn how to divide decimals. So make sure you have your notes and you follow along. Alright, so let's look at this quick review. What does division really mean? Here I have 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So my 6 is my dividend. Okay? And my dividend is the amount to split into groups. So basically, my whole. Okay, so what I have, the amount that I'm splitting. My 3 is my divisor, and my divisor is the number of equal groups. Okay, so again, the dividend is your whole, your divisor is how many groups. And then the quotient is the size of each of these groups. Okay, dividend's your whole, divisor is the number of groups, and the quotient is the size of each of these groups. Alright, so now let's work out this division problem using models. So here I have 6/10 divided by 3. Again, my 6/10 is my dividend and my 3 is my divisor. So when the divisor is a whole number, it is easiest to think of it as the number of groups. So here I have 6/10. That's my number of groups divided into 3. So the way we think about this is, if 6/10 was split into 3 equal groups, how big would each group be? Well, here I have a model that I'm going to represent as a whole. Okay, I've split it up into 6 parts, 6/10. And now, based on my question, how big would each group be if I split it into 3 equal groups? So if I split this into 3 equal groups, then each group would have 2/10. And I would represent it using this. My divisor goes outside, my dividend goes inside. So again, 3 does not go into 0, so I have to add a decimal. 3 goes into 6 2 times. And if we look at our model, it's the same thing. 2/10 is our answer. Again, look at your model. You have 2/10 into each of these groups. Alright, this example. Here you have 8/10 divided by 2/10. Again, when the divisor is a decimal number, it is easiest to think of it as the size of the groups. So each group is 2/10. That's the size of each group. So our question is, how many groups of the 2/10 are in 8/10? Again, this model right here represents a whole. So if I split this whole into 8/10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I want to know how many groups of 2/10 are in total. Then I would just circle 2/10, and I can clearly see that I have 4 groups. Again, if I just use this using my log division, I can see. But remember, my divisor cannot be a decimal. So what I have to do is I have to multiply by 10 and move my decimal over. Since I moved it over on the outside of the house, I have to move it over inside of the house. So now, my new division looks like this, without the decimals. And 2 goes into 8, well, 4 times. 4 times 2 equals 8. 8 minus 8 equals 0. Okay, this third example. Here I have 2 divided by 4/10. When the divisor is a decimal, remember, think of it as the size of the group. How many groups of 4/10 are in 2 wholes? Here I have 2 wholes. I want to know how many groups of 4/10 are in these 2 wholes. So I'm going to split them up into tenths. Okay, each group is split up into tenths. And then I'm going to circle groups of 4/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So my answer is 5. I have 5 groups of 4/10 in 2 wholes. Again, look at my problem. I have a divisor that is a decimal, and I can't have that. So you just move it over, and since you move it over on the outside of the house, you have to do the same thing. If you don't have a decimal, remember this is a whole number. All whole numbers have a decimal to the right. So all you do is just add a placeholder, and you add it with the 0. So now you have 4 divided by 20. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 equals 20, and 20 minus 20 equals 0. Our number of groups match with our problem. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now can you determine a rule for dividing decimal numbers? Just like I said earlier, the divisor must be a whole number. Okay, it must be a whole number. If the divisor is already a whole number, then just move the decimal point to the dividend straight up to the quotient line. For example, this is my dividend, this is my whole, 4.6. 4.6 is going to go inside my house. My whole number, which is my divisor here, goes outside. If my divisor is already a whole number, then I don't have to worry about anything. All I do is just move up my decimal point up to the line, and then start dividing as usual. Okay, same thing here at the bottom. 25 is my dividend. It goes inside the house. Divisor goes outside the house. Again, no decimal points, then you have nothing to worry about. But what happens when you do? When you determine a rule for dividing decimals, if the divisor is a decimal number, then you move the decimal point in the divisor to the right until a whole number is created. Then move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places. Here my dividend is 4.6, my divisor is 3.2. My divisor is a decimal, and I can't have that. So what I have to do is I have to move it until I have to move my decimal to the right until I do not have a decimal. So if I move this to the right, my new number is 32. Okay, but what I do to this side, what I do to my dividend, I have to do to my divisor. So now I moved it once, so I move it once as well. It becomes a 46. So now that I've moved my decimal point, now I can place it into the house. Again, 46 goes inside, 32 goes outside. And now I divide as usual. Here I have 25 divided by 8.5. My divisor has a decimal. Again, I cannot have a divisor as a decimal. So I move it once to the right to make it an 85. Since I move it once to the right as my divisor, I have to do the same thing to my dividend. I have no decimal point here. Again, all whole numbers have a decimal on the right side. So I make a decimal, create a placeholder, and add a 0. So now I write this inside the house. Now it's 250 divided by 85. And then you just divide as usual. Oh, so here's a joke. Why does your division assignment feel so cold? Because a lot of students had remainders, and my mom always told me to put leftovers in the refrigerator. Okay, let's move on. Let's try some word problems. Wyatt had $73.85. He wants to divide this amount evenly between himself and 4 friends. How much should each person get? Okay, again, here's my whole number. When you're working with division problems, they're always going to give you a whole number. So 73.85 is my dividend, which is my whole. Okay, and he wants to divide this between himself and 4 friends. So that's 4 plus 1. That's his 4 friends and himself. So my expression is going to be $73.85 divided by, well, himself and 4 friends. Well, that equals 5 divided by 5. Now I have to make my long division. My dividend goes inside the house, 73.85, and my divisor, the number of groups, is going to be 5. Okay, since my divisor is a whole number, then all I have to do is bring my decimal point up and divide as usual. Go ahead and pause the video, divide it yourself, and then click play once you have an answer. Okay, you should have gotten $14.77. So each person should get $14.77. If you got it right, you can move on. If you got it wrong, then look at my math problem and match it with yours and see where the mistake came. Or where was it that you made a mistake. Okay, second problem. Mrs. Phillip bought 1.5 pounds of ground beef from Kroger. She paid a total of $6.75 for the ground beef. What was the price per pound? Again, they're giving you the total. So this automatically tells you that it's going to be a division problem. So this is going to be your dividend. Your total is always going to be your dividend. So your dividend is $6.75. You know it's a division problem. So the number of groups is going to be 1.5 because that's how much she bought. And we want to know what was the price per pound. It's another indicator that it's going to be a division problem. I can clearly see that my divisor has a decimal, and again, I can't have that. So what I do is I move it to the right until I have a whole number. So if I move this to the right, now I have a 15. So since I moved it to the right once as in my divisor, then I have to do the same thing to my dividend. I move it once and place it between the 7 and the 5. So now I have 67.5. So once I have my new expression, now I can create my long division. My dividend goes inside and my divisor goes outside. And now I divide as usual. Again, go ahead and pause the video and click play once you are ready. Okay, you should have 4.5. So that means that each pound cost Mrs. Phillips $4.50. Again, if you got this problem right, then go ahead and move on. If you got it wrong, look at my math and see where the mistake was. Okay, third problem. Tom had $4.20 to buy gifts for his family. He decided to buy them the same gift. Each gift was 35 cents. How many gifts was he able to get? Okay, they're telling us that he had a total of $4.20. So this is going to be my dividend, our whole. Okay, that's going to go first. So $4.20. And each of them cost 35 cents. And we want to know how many gifts he was able to get. Again, I'm running into a problem because my divisor is a decimal. So I have to move my decimal points to the right until I get a whole number. So I move it once, then I get a 3.5, still a decimal. If I move it twice, I get a 35. So it's going to be 35. I move it twice in my divisor, do the same thing to my dividend. 1, 2. I have 420. Now that I have my new expression, then I could just simply set up my long division. Dividend goes inside 420, divisor goes outside 35. And now I divide as usual. Go ahead and pause the video and solve on your own. Okay guys, so your answer should be 12. So Tom got 12 gifts. And again, we could just double check and we can see that our answer is correct. Okay, make sure you have written down everything from this video